Good afternoon. Welcome to Entrepreneurial Live Interviews with Connie Fuksa. I bring you this interview series, try to do it a couple of times a week because I want to share with you guys entrepreneurial stories from people that just felt something really strongly, that a need that needed to be fixed in our community, a pain that was out there that needed to be taken care of. Some experiences they had, and they decided to create a business or develop a business or develop something within a business that they wanted to see happen. And so what I'm trying to do is bring to you the stories of these amazing people that I've met that have so much information to share with you so that we all know we're in the same boat. We've all had these experiences. Some of the things that'll help us grow as entrepreneurs and to feel as though we're part of this bigger picture, that we all are experiencing these things and it's all okay. So today I got to meet this lady a couple weeks ago. So powerful and so engaging that I can't wait to share with you. Rachel, thank you so much for being with me today.
Oh my gosh, Connie, thank you so much for having me. And I just love what you're doing. And I think as entrepreneurs, it can feel so lonely. So I love this community you're creating.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Exactly where we're trying to go with this. So, Rachel, tell us about you. I want to know your story. I want you to share with everybody. Who are you? Where did you come from? What are you doing? And how did you decide to start doing that?
Yeah, thanks for asking. So my journey started really when I was young. So I'm Indian, and my family told me that I wanted to be a doctor. And so I never really asked myself what I wanted to be until I got to college. And then I realized I was taking organic chemistry classes and getting ready to study for the MCATs. And I was like, this is not what I want to do. And through a series of events, it just led me to actually getting a degree in psychology. And I, to be honest, kind of stumbled across a career in marketing and was really lucky. I had a 12-year career in corporate America working at agencies and really big tech companies. But around the year 10, just started to grow disillusioned with what was happening in my personal company and just with leadership. And I was working on products. And when you're in marketing and you're marketing something that you wouldn't tell your friends to buy, it just feels disingenuous. And it just didn't sit well with me. And I started asking myself a question around year 10 of my corporate career, which was, what would I do without fear of failure? Which is such a great question, right? And so a lot of people have heard that, but to really sit with it, I sat with it for months. And I kept on coming back to, I love marketing. I love the right brain meets left brain, art meets science. And that's how I'm wired. I feel like I have, strengths in both of those areas. But I wanted to do it for companies that were doing good in the world and for projects that I really cared about. And fast forward 2 years, and the division of the company I was working for shut down. And it was this, really big pivotal moment where I got to choose either, hey, I can go back and get another corporate job, even at that same company, or do this thing that I had been dreaming about, which was pick my projects, pick the companies that I worked with. And so I decided to just take a leap of faith and got out there and started Rachel K Group, which is a boutique marketing consulting firm that now I've had for almost 10 years, which feels nuts. And I can't believe it's been that long. But it's just been a really fun journey of, again, exploring, like, how do I make this business matter to me and serve clients that I really care about helping.
Wow, that is so that's so powerful. It's really interesting to hear you say what would I do without fear of failure? Because I talk about failure a lot when I'm doing I do some live broadcasts, and because people get stuck in this spot and are sure that if I made a mistake, well then that's failure, and I always look at failure as, instead of it being a negativity, as it being an experience, whatever that experience is. So not having the fear of, oh gosh, I made a mistake, I can't get over. You took that, sat on it, and figured out exactly how you wanted to make that difference. And so I love this. It's really exciting. So let's go back for a minute, because let's talk about the fact that your opening line is very powerful, in the respect that you come from an Indian descent and you were told you were going to be a doctor. And gosh, I think as Americans, most of us don't even understand that happens. And so that's really powerful. So you had this whole machine of a family and system, and the way that things are supposed to be that was really guiding your life to begin with.
Yeah, and I think while maybe the doctor thing is unique to me and my family because we came from a middle class family in India, we had doctors in our family already. But I think that's actually true of a lot of people, regardless of culture and where you're coming from, is there's some kind of expectation of you're either going to go into the family business, or it could just be the expectation that you're going to go to college, or it could be an expectation that you're probably not going to graduate high school, right? It's like such a wide level, but this idea that we have these outside influences speaking in our ear and influencing, really shaping our lives for us instead of asking us questions about who we are, how we're wired, what we really want to do, the things that burden us, the things that excite us. And I wish that was a course, right, in high school. Like that would have been so much more helpful than economics or whatever I took, that I don't use now. And so I feel like there could be a whole education around really understanding how we're wired and then picking a career based on that versus these expectations from outside sources.
That's so powerful that you say that, because think about, I say this a lot, especially going through a lot of young people that are graduating high school in the past couple of years, and how we expect those young people to know what they want to do.
I know.
Go to college and pick some kind of a career, like, oh, I'm supposed to know when I'm 17 or 18 what I want to be when I grow up, and now even so much earlier than that, because they got to start applying into schools and things so much earlier than even that. So it's just really scary, but that's an interesting way to look at that, because you're absolutely right. I mean, all of us have some outside influence that sort of directs us into a path. And so then you talk about that, you go into college and what your studies were, and then stumbling upon marketing. Tell us a little bit more about that, because I think that's so interesting that you talk about that, because all of us ended up in some path in our life. Maybe we chose it, but more often than not, it's something that really was in our path that we never even knew was there, and we hit it.
Yeah, I mean, looking back, right, hindsight's always 20/20. I really felt like I was led there. But my psychology degree, I did an emphasis in social psychology, study of group behavior, and so I got really interested in advertising and just marketing in general, and kind of social influential behavior. And that was what I did some of my papers on and some of my own research projects on. And so I did stumble into marketing in that I got an internship in the marketing department of a big company here in San Diego. After I graduated, I moved down here, but it ended up being a really great fit for me. And again, I feel like I was led there now looking back, but that's why now too, I'm so passionate about helping other people find their passion and this intersection. I call it the intersection of purpose and pleasure, of really how are you designed, and then what gets you excited.
Nice. Yeah, this is really interesting, because when you think of somebody in a marketing career, you don't think of those specific details as you're talking about, and studying group in the psychology and studying groups and things like that, leading you into marketing. So that's really interesting how you went through that path. And so then you come out and you go to corporate America, and then you're working in a marketing department, and you decide, wow, maybe this isn't exactly, I mean, that was a pretty strong statement when you said, here I am creating marketing stuff, programs and plans for a product that I wouldn't even talk about, because it's not something I would ever refer. So that's really interesting. And so you took your own passion of it, and decided, okay, talk to us about deciding to leave that company and start it on your own. And, some of those dynamics, because that's the other thing, I think we all at some point say, wow, that would be a really cool widget to start developing, or wow, this would be a neat plan to do, or wow, I see this thing in the market. But taking it from, oh my, yeah, let's go ahead and just dump my paycheck, to going into, a business. And so talk to us a little bit about that transition.
Yeah. So I think I tell people, I had the opportunity because, again, the division I was working for shut down. And so I had a forced decision put upon me. And I want other people to think like, you don't have to have your company shut down to make this decision. But for me, that was the path. And I had a 6-month plan of, if I don't get any clients, if I don't make any money, if I don't make a dime in 6 months, I'll go back to corporate. And I made a ton of mistakes, but I also just was a student. I just talked to anyone I could. I connected with people and said, can I take you to coffee? Can I buy you lunch? And talk to anyone I knew who was in a similar space, marketing consulting or just consulting. I read any books they told me to read. And I, Googled a ton of stuff. There was no clear plan. And I felt like, that was really why, looking back, why now I'm so passionate about then helping other people start their own, freelance consulting solopreneur gigs, because I just want people to avoid all the mistakes I made. Now, again, they were not failures. They were great learnings. But there was a lot of missteps I took that I didn't need to, had there been a clear outline and just a really, maybe even just someone to guide me a little bit more, closely as I was going through that transition phase. It is a transition for sure. From going to, getting a paycheck every 2 weeks to then working on a project basis, in some cases a retainer basis, figuring out pricing, figuring out how do I get clients, what are the services I want to offer, all of those things, I have developed along the way over the last 10 years. But I always tell people, the journey to entrepreneurship is not linear, but it's totally worth it.
Yeah, absolutely. I 100% agree with you, having done it for a long time myself. But so that's really interesting. As you're talking, the first thing you said, or one of the first things you said, was how you like to help other entrepreneurs so they don't hit these missteps. So talk to us about some of those missteps, because I think that's a really powerful part of what we're talking about today, to understanding that, first of all, that it happens to everybody. Second of all, that a lot of these things are, we jump into this pool, but we don't always necessarily know what we don't know. And some of them can be pretty big, and some of them could be very easily avoidable if you just ask someone else.
Absolutely. So there's two big areas. I think one is just from a legal perspective, understanding, at least here in the States, should I be a sole proprietor? Should I be an LLC? Should I be a corporation and file taxes as an S Corp? And what are those things? Like, it's so confusing. If you try to read the IRS website on the definitions of an LLC and S Corp, you're like, my brain will just explode. So those things are not easily, and I think, understood unless you have someone kind of guiding you. So that's number one. And even the questions to ask about not only, what should I be, but when should I incorporate, if I should incorporate, and understanding it's a combination of legal and also tax purposes. So that's a big mistake I see. I see people either, for example, in California, starting a business and right away forming an LLC. And if you're a marketing consultant like me, I would say don't do that right away until you reach a certain level of income and net profit. Because there are great tax savings, but on the flip side, it's also very expensive to do that and file every year. And also it's quite difficult to dismantle those entities once you form them. And so until you're committed and you want to do this business for 3 to 5 years and you're making a certain amount of profit, again, I'm talking about California, it's going to differ per state. But, really, really understanding what you should be from a legal perspective. Now, some people in California should be, for example, marriage family therapists who want to incorporate, they have to be, I believe, a LLC and file as an S Corp right away, or it might be corporation. But the point is, it's very dependent on your specific circumstances. So that's one area I see people make mistakes in. And the second is in accounting. And I think, I was just talking to my business coach about this, has a CPA firm. There's a lot of shame around money in general, and we just don't talk about money well as a society. And we're kind of embarrassed. We either like brag about it or we like humble brag about it. I know it's very strange. There's no in between healthy conversation about like, yeah, we all want to be comfortable. We want to live a certain lifestyle. And I think because of that, when it comes to our business and our accounting and financial practices, there's a lot of either like, just, I'm going to put my blinders on and work and not worry about that thing. And maybe it'll take care of itself come tax time. Or people just, do everything manually. Like they're sending out invoices with Word documents and trying to track it through email, or they're not keeping their business and personal finances separately. That's a really big one and so easy to avoid. So those are just a few of the things. And then a really big thing too, I think, is not really starting with your why, right? Like what Simon Sinek's Start With Why book. But I love the idea of, starting with a foundation of like, really, what is it? Instead of just going out in the market and saying like, oh, well, I have this skill and I think I could do this. Like, really, what do you love doing? And then forming a business around that versus, just kind of stumbling upon, like my marketing career that I stumbled upon. It worked out and I'm so glad I had that path, but not everyone is as lucky to have found the thing right away. So really asking yourself some of those questions.
Wow, so many good nuggets here. And so starting from the end of that and moving backwards, one thing that I love is, I follow Simon Sinek too, in the Start With Your Why. The interesting thing about that is, one thing I like to talk about is most people don't just stumble upon whatever it is. So it's very hard to determine sometimes what that why is. And the why isn't necessarily what you're doing or why you're doing that. It can be as simple as, why do you want to make more money, or what makes you want to get in the morning, or what pieces, really just feeling apart the process of your day and what energizes you and makes you forget what time it is, those kinds of things. And so I really appreciate you bringing that up, because I think that's really important. Even though we think we know, we have a great idea for the widget, how does the widget fit into what's important to you?
That's right.
Really important piece of that. I also like that you brought up about, California, yes, the rules may be different than, in South Carolina or in DC or in, Utah, but the concepts are the same, right? So I totally agree with you, but these are things that people need to not be afraid to go out and ask. I mean, if you have a physical space, having a business is more important because it insulates you a little bit as an individual, but you also need to understand tax ramifications about having those things and those expenses. And like you said, making sure that you have accounting and you're asking for help with those pieces, because, nothing will get you in trouble faster than not taking care of the things when you're supposed to. So one of those things, these three points that you brought up lead to something that I find that entrepreneurs who have been doing it for a little while, have stumbled through some things, have a common theme, is they realize that although they can try to do it for themselves, all of it themselves, they realize that either they don't want to do everything, or they know they're not good at certain things. It just doesn't make them happy. And their time is much better spent doing things that are income producing for them and that do make them happy and are equating with the why. So reaching out to people and asking for accounting help or advice, legal advice as to entities and things like that, how very important it is to have those people that strengthen you.
Absolutely. Yeah. One of the things I love working with clients on is forming a personal board of directors, is what I call it. So, we have these corporations have boards of directors that help keep their executive team and their employees accountable to whatever goals they've set. And I think you can do the same as an entrepreneur. But my personal board of directors includes my business attorney, my tax accountant, my estate attorney, my investment advisor, my business coach, and then, a few other consultants who are doing what I do, that, we're kind of in a space together where we're in an accountability group. And so it's really important, I think, you make a great point that it's good to reach out, figure out the things you're good at, and then try to outsource the things that really you're either not good at, or maybe it's just, maybe you're good at it, but it takes you so long and it's not the best and highest use of your time. Yeah. And as an entrepreneur, time being our greatest commodity, really understanding like it might cost you a little bit here, but what you're going to make up in time, it's going to, just negate that little cost that you're putting out.
Huge. Absolutely. I love that you call it the personal board of directors. I'm looking down because I'm making all kinds of notes about all these great things you've been talking about. But the personal board of directors, I usually, I have talked about that kind of concept before, having mentors. And mentors or building your own team, even if you're a solopreneur, as every one of us have and need a team. Our team is, our spouse, our children, our mom and dad, our neighbor, or our best friend who we bounce things off of. All of these people that are wise advisors because they know us, or they know our personalities, and they know things about us that help us have a different picture of where we need to be based on a certain activity that's going on right away.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think you hit on a really key point, which is people that know you. So I think it's both important to get, kind of outside advice. And also that's why I have a couple of, friends who do what I do, who are on the board, where I can go to them and they know me deeply and know what I'm passionate about, know my values, and can, steer me when I'm having questions. And also, I think, say that again.
I said, yeah, absolutely. I'm agreeing.
And I think even just being okay, I think I love what you said too about, just we don't have to do it alone. And so besides having, this advisory board or advisory team, also, like, I have a network of other freelancers I work with in my marketing business to help me with graphic design and web programming and copywriting and PR and all the things that I know how to do, like little pieces of them, but it's just, again, like such a better use of my time to just outsource it, create, income for other people, and then serve my clients in a different way through strategy and project management versus doing every little thing myself.
Yeah, I love this. So talk to us a little bit for a minute, because I hear you, I mean, you and I talked offline, so I know a little bit of the answer to this, but I hear you talking about marketing and how you're doing this boutique marketing for your clients and all these different facets. But you also are talking about giving basically some startup business kind of formation advice. Talk to us a little bit about that.
Yeah, thanks for asking. So about a year ago, I was just asking myself another question, like, what's next? Dreaming about how to grow my marketing consulting business and realizing that there's this hole, because whenever I looked for just advice when I was starting, and then even more recently, like, how do you start a business? What do you need to do to become, an entrepreneur or freelancer or consultant? I kept on just coming up with sites or services that help you grow once you're already launched. So they're helping you market yourself or helping you grow your personal brand, but no one's getting into the nitty gritty of, again, helping you with those foundational pieces, helping you with the entity structure, the accounting. And so I decided that is another passion of mine. I've been doing it and I've been helping people for the last 10 years launch their businesses. I just formalized it into a program. And so now I call it the Freelance Freedom Program. And it's meant for either, while you're still working in a full-time job and you're thinking about either creating a side hustle or leaving and doing it full-time eventually, or if you've recently launched and you feel like, I didn't do any of those things and maybe I should go back and think about some of those foundational pieces. So that's another like new business venture passion of mine that I'm really excited about.
That is so cool. And I mean, so it really fits into all of the stuff we're sitting here talking about, just all of the pieces that people just don't know that they've missed or they haven't included, or that they, like you said, need to go back and say, oh, shoot, I didn't do that. I didn't know I was supposed to do that. So I love you talking about that, because I think this is just, it really speaks to all the things we're talking about, because I do feel like people just jump in and say, all right, well, I'm going to figure it out as I go along. And for some that works, but very rarely does it work successfly anyway. So talk to us for a few minutes about, we've talked about mentors, we've talked about coaches, but talk about, why would you have a coach? What's the plan there? Why would you think about that? Because you yourself are a coach in a respect, but you also have a business coach too. So talk to us a little bit about that, because I think it's so important. People in our world don't always understand that it's okay to ask for somebody else for a different kind of guidance, that maybe you just don't know that area of expertise.
Yeah, that's a great question. I think, there's two heads are always better than one. That's just the reality of the world, of the history, and, throughout time. And so knowing that having someone that's maybe just gone a little bit before you, has a little bit more experience in the thing that you're trying to learn or do, is just, the benefits of the mentors I've had in my life, really great managers in corporate America that served as mentors. And then since then, just different types of mentors and business coaches that are like, hey, they're asking questions that I might not have thought of. They're giving me advice and resources that I just hadn't heard of or learned. And as they're learning, they're teaching me, which I love. And so I love that too. Like, I'm constantly learning, I'm constantly growing. And so being able to impart those things in addition to the things I've already know and have already established in my program, constantly adding to that as I learn, and being able to pass that on to the people that I'm working with now.
Nice. I think that's such an important part of this puzzle is people just don't realize what that it's okay to ask for that advice, but also you need to ask for that advice. You need to be looking for the people that have done what you want to do and continue to reach out and grab their wisdom. No one, 90% of the time that you ask for wisdom on an experience or on an event that they've had are going to turn you down. Very rarely does that ever happen.
That's right. Yeah.
Some people will share more and have more time. Some people will be less, but rarely will somebody say, no, I'm not going to help you. I don't have time, or I'm not interested. The other thing that I really wanted you to touch on really quick was, gosh, I just had a brain cramp. So I really want to, the pieces about owning a business and not knowing everything that you're in for. One of the things I think that's really confusing that people don't understand about the entrepreneurial world that have never been there or maybe just got into it is all the things that you have to do behind the scenes that just don't have anything to do with making your widget or creating those graphics or being that person and doing all of those things. Talk to us about that just for a minute, because I think that's the piece. I think a lot of people think we just drop down out of the sky and all of a sudden we're magical entrepreneurs and this entrepreneur fairy just drops on us and everything's perfect. And of course, that's not.
I love that question. I think the interesting thing is that some entrepreneurs are going to be in areas that are business related and they have a business background and maybe they have an MBA and things like that. But the reality is a ton of entrepreneurs never had a experience in business. And so when I'm talking about business, again, I'm talking about some of those back end things like goal setting, like creating a business plan. And again, setting up accounting, understanding what a P&L is, profit and loss statement, understanding what a balance sheet is, and setting up your accounting properly, all those back end things. And then even really understanding in marketing, like old school traditional marketing, right? It used to be the 4 P's of marketing. It was product, placement, promotion, and price. And so even how are you pricing your offer? How much is your widget cost? And do you know how to actually price that? So even just all of those things, understanding there's people out there that can help you and guide you in that, because some of those business things might not be your strong suit, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. But then asking for the help in those areas that are not your favorite, that are not your expertise, and getting the guidance you need so you can be really successful. And what that does too is frees up your creative space to continue creating the widget, the product, the service that you're passionate about, and keep on iterating on that versus focusing on these other things that can be really time consuming and maybe even, just not as life-giving to you as creating the thing you're really passionate about.
I love that. Not life-giving. That is so true. And wow, just very, you can really hone in on that. That was really a good explanation of that. So Rachel, talk to us real quick as we wind up here. Talk to us 2 things. Do you have some kind of special, some kind of thing you want to share with us going on in your business that you want to promote today?
Sure. Yeah, I love helping people again start. I have a few just free webinars on my YouTube channel. It's Rachel K Group if you look up that on YouTube. But also on my website, I have a 20 things you should do before you launch your business checklist. It's really the ultimate checklist before you launch your business. Some of the things that we talked about, but clearly outlined in almost a chronological way. And you can download that at rachelkgroup.com/checklist. And it's free and it's just a resource for you. And hopefully that helps just, again, take out some of the guessing work, taking out some of the Googling and not understanding what are the most, important basic things I should be doing first.
Right. I love that. So obviously you just shared that, but so ways to get in touch with Rachel K after today, rachelk.com.
rachelkgroup.com.
Sorry, I wrote that down as group and I didn't say it. rachelkgroup.com. What other ways can we find you? Where else can we find you?
Yeah, LinkedIn. I love connecting with people on LinkedIn. It's at Rachel K Cross. On Facebook, I'm Rachel K Group. And those are the main things.
Yeah, very good. So everybody, we are going to, obviously we're broadcasting live here on Facebook. It's also on YouTube right now. We are going to be sharing the link on LinkedIn as soon as we're finished, so you'll be able to share it. Anybody who didn't see it, go subscribe to my YouTube channel, because then you can go back and replay this and you can see it, and you can catch any other ones that you may have missed, or things that are upcoming. And Rachel, I just can't thank you enough for your time and your wisdom and all the great nuggets that you shared with us today.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been a pleasure. I'm excited.
Absolutely. Thank you. Well, I look forward to staying connected and continuing to learn from each other. I think it'll be a fantastic experience.
Yes, and again, thanks for doing what you're doing for the community.
Oh, thank you very much. Well, guys, as I said, go back and check. Make sure that you are subscribed to my YouTube channel so you don't miss anything. And then to find other information you can follow, you can also see a lot of these videos on my website, ConnieFuksa.com. So go check that out and make sure you're not missing anything that might have already happened that you want to make sure you tuned into. And for now, thank you so much for tuning into Entrepreneurial Live Interviews. And Rachel, thank you again. I hope you guys have a fantastic rest of your day.
Bye.